I'm Ryan from Amberell. Is he wearing a red shirt? And this is Magneto from Strymon. If you look it up on most websites, it'll be listed as a multi-head tape delay emulator. But it's really more of an ambience generating, warble making, multifunction, texture machiney module that you can use in a lot of different ways. Like all of my videos up until now, this isn't sponsored by Strymon or anyone else. I went out and got this on my own, so all of my opinions on this thing are totally unbiased and totally my own. That being said, this module is pretty awesome, and I wanted to make this to show off some of the things that it can do, some of the sounds and textures it can create, some of the negatives that I've stumbled upon working with it for a couple of months now. And like always, the video is timestamped with chapters, so feel free to jump around to the section that interests you. Magneto's been out for a while now, and there are plenty of videos doing really deep dives on the module's functions, and I'll link some of those in the description. I wanted to focus more on the sounds that it creates, so while I'll really briefly go over all of the buttons, the knobs, and patch points on it, my focus is really going to be more on running different sources through it, and hopefully you'll leave with a good idea of what you can do with it. After running through the module itself, I'll pair it up with Plaits emulation, Rings emulation, Grandmother, maybe a piano, maybe a Rhodes, probably not the Rhodes. We'll see what I can get into. So let's dive in and take a look at the front panel. First of all, there are 3 modes that Magneto can run in: Echo, Loop, and Sample. At the top left, you'll find the dry knob, which you can treat like volume. The record level, which as you increase will add a really nice saturation to the incoming signal. The big knob in the middle is your tape speed and pitch knob. This will control how fast or slow your tape is running. The tap button lets you tap the speed of the echo and will set the distance between playhead 1 and playhead 4. In loop mode, it's 1 tap to splice in, the next tap splices out, and a 3rd tap clears the loop. In sample mode, it's 1 tap to begin sample record, the 2nd to stop, and the 3rd to clear. The wet knob is how much of the affected signal you're outputting, and the repeats will control how long the echoes will last. It's all pretty basic stuff up until now. The 4 knobs in the middle control the playback volume of each head of the delay, and they correspond to the buttons below them. If you turn up the volume on any of the heads, you'll hear the echo, but it won't repeat unless you select the button underneath it. The switch to the left of the knobs controls how the heads are spaced. Your choices are even spacing, triplet spacing, and a shift mode that we'll take a little closer look at later. The bottom row of knobs is a low cut, a tape age which will get warmer as you increase the age. The crinkle knob basically sets how damaged the tape is, so turning it up increases how much friction's on the tape, how many splices, if it's wrinkled, all that good stuff. Wow and flutter will increase the fluctuations in the tape machine itself. All the way up would emulate a tape machine that is in desperate need of repair. It's a great tool for lo-fi and can add really great texture if you make ambient music as well. And the last knob is a spring reverb emulation. It's really cool because it affects the dry and the wet signal. The pan switches on the right are pretty self-explanatory. It just deals with how the stereo image is panned. And under the bottom row of knobs is the transport button. And engaging this will give you a new set of controls. The infinite button will disable the record head and loop the most recent cycle. The forward reverse button will reverse the echo. The reset button and pause button are pretty self-explanatory, but the restart button has one other function that I'll try to get into, but it involves going into the shifter head spacing. The patch points around it are also pretty self-explanatory. The only ones I'll really mention are the send and return. The send out will let you send the delay repeats to another module to be processed, and when they come back to the return, they're mixed in with the dry signal. The other patch points I'll mention are the clock outs. They correspond to the 4 playheads and will be divided accordingly to how they're set. And there's more, but let's dive into the sound of it. Before I do though, I just need to take a minute to say that if you are enjoying this video, please consider liking and subscribing. It really does help the channel. It gives me a nice confidence boost, and it lets you in on a small but growing community of some pretty cool people. It also helps me get to my goal of 1,000 subscribers by December 31st. So if you're already subscribed, thank you so much. Let's move on. So what does it sound like? So for this patch, I'm running Grandmother through Magneto, and that's the only 2 things that are happening in this. I'll turn down the wet and take off the reverb so you can hear just kind of the Grandmother on its own. Okay, and I'm going to turn up the wet knob on the Magneto. And you probably can't see it from this shot, but the Magneto has 1 playhead engaged, which is the 4th playhead. The speed is all the way up. The wow and flutter is all the way up. Crinkle is at about 11 o'clock. Tape age is about 3 o'clock. And let's add the spring reverb and hear what it sounds like. For this sequence, I'm going to run a little patch out of Bloom into After Ladder Audio's Resonate, which is the Mutable Instruments Rings clone, into Magneto. And I have Magneto on screen so you can see all the settings. So let's listen to the sequence dry first. Add a little reverb. The only other thing I have going on is I decided to run an LFO into the repeats knob. So for this patch, I'm running a really small 4-step sequence from Bloom into Pixie, which is After Ladder Audio's replication of Plaits by Mutable Instruments, and going straight into Magneto. And for this patch, I'm going to be running it in shift mode. So the shift mode, I realized I didn't get into that, and it's really, really cool. It does some pretty wacky things. Head 1 is plus an octave and a fifth, and it's 3 times the speed. The second head is an octave up and it's double the speed. The third head is down an octave and at half speed. The fourth head has no shift and it's just quarter note repeats. The shift mode is probably my favorite mode this thing has. It gets out of hand quickly, like all of them. But if you kind of tweak it the right way, it can yield some of the coolest results. All right, let's jump back into it. So here is the sequence just on its own. For this example, I'm going to send a piano through Magneto on sample mode. And the goal I'm trying to achieve is just a really subtle ambience. I'm triggering the tap with Pamela's Pro Workout, and I am triggering the play or restart button with clock 4 of Magneto. So what isn't Magneto? It's not simple, it's not quick. Well, that's not fair. It can be simple. It can. I think your level of comfort with modular gear will sort of dictate how simple or quick it is. And let's be honest, nothing about modular could really be described as simple or quick, but that's sort of what makes it really great. And what makes this module pretty worth the hefty price tag of around $600 new and like $450 used is that someone who is just getting into modular can use it and make some really awesome sounds. But someone who has been doing it for years can continue to dive really deep into it. Another not great thing about Magneto is, just like the Star Lab, it can get out of hand pretty quickly, so just be aware. I found the best way to navigate that cave of like endless noise is to have an idea of what you want beforehand. It's not a reason to stay away from it necessarily, just something to definitely know about if you do want to dive into it. And the last thing I'll say about Magneto, and it isn't even a knock on the module itself, but if you just want a simple delay, this thing is pretty excessive. There are a lot of delay modules out there that are like a lot cheaper and that are really great. There are even utility modules that will let you use guitar pedals that you might already have. So instead of shelling out a few $100s on a new delay module, you could spend a fraction of that and open up your system, not just to delay pedals, but any other pedals that you have laying around. You could also go the direction of in-the-box delay plugins that would do the trick really well. My favorite one of these is Chronoblob 2 from VCV Rack. Send it to VCV Rack the same way you'd send it to your DAW. It's also a Eurorack module, but the VCV version is great, it's free, and it's pretty simple to understand. At the end of the day, Magneto is a module I use with almost every patch that I make. I love it, I'm glad I have it. There's more that it does that I didn't showcase. I may make a video in the future about some of the cool loop and sample functions, but that's it for this one. Let me know what you think of Magneto. If you want to see it do something else or have any questions about it, I'll see you down in the comments. Until then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.